Welcome to another episode of the Driver's Alert podcast, where we discuss all things related to road and driver safety. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Our guest today is Janna Pelle. She's an alternative pop artist born in Miami, now living in Brooklyn, New York. Her lifelong friend and former bassist Patrick Wanninkhof was tragically killed by a distracted driver while riding across the United States for charity with the organization Bike and Build. Janna Pelle is determined to raise awareness through music with her new album, VOICEMEMO, illustrating stages of grief with auto-related imagery, and through social media with the introduction of the Hit and Run project. So Janna, thanks for agreeing to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Unfortunately, Janna, we hear a lot of these stories. It's too often the case where just this tragic, senseless loss of life occurs. And then at first, you experience this really immense grief, and at some point, anger starts to seep in as you think about how ridiculous this kind of activity is and leading to such harm. So you see these grassroots efforts that start up and raising awareness campaigns, efforts to change just social behavior, making distracted driving socially unacceptable, and then this fight for stricter laws at the state legislature level. Which I think you're probably doing all of this, and I commend you for your efforts. So, with that said, and segueing into this album, VOICEMEMO, what was the inspiration for the album?
Well, the name VOICEMEMO kind of has multiple meanings. So the first is that, it had been about a year since Patrick's death, and I was just going through my phone one day and I realized I had a lot of song ideas recorded over the past year, and they were all in some way related to, how I felt or the stages of grief in a way. And I realized I had enough songs for a whole album, so I started developing each of them more. Another meaning is how we want to change technology. We want people to have voice activation on phones, hands-free devices. I want to kind of promote this idea of not only legislation and social change, but technology needs to change, because especially as a musician, I hate when people say stuff like, I was just changing the music. So I really think technology needs to change, and VOICEMEMO is a way of kind of putting that in your mind. And then finally, it's lastly about this wanting to have a longingness and communication with the person that's no longer here. So it's almost like a little bit about transmitting a message and hoping they receive it as well.
And I'm sorry, how long ago did this happen with Patrick?
2015.
2015, okay. Yeah. So what is the overall mission then for the Hit and Run project?
So Hit and Run is the first single on the album that's going to be released. April 21st is the video release. The single is actually already out on Spotify and iTunes and all that good stuff, so you can take a listen. But I started thinking about what Hit and Run really could mean in the bigger picture. And the thing is, right now, there are so many social media campaigns about ending texting and driving. And I'm a part of one, actually. I work with We Save Lives, and they have the But Not While Driving campaign, and there's the Arrive Alive and It Can Wait, and there's so many great campaigns out there. And I was just like, what can I do that's different, but also related to the song? And I started thinking about, it could be kind of misleading, because Patrick's case wasn't a hit and run. A lot of these cases aren't a hit and run, but it's about how the people who are texting and driving and killing people are getting away with it. And I feel like in a lot of states, their punishments are not strong enough. And so I really want to call attention with this campaign to how people are not getting punished appropriately for this. We're still calling it an accident, and there's also a great campaign out there called Crash Not Accident. A lot of people are against using the word accident because, if we adopt that word, then we're like, oh, it's just an accident, and it makes the situation less grave and like it's almost forgivable when we use that word. So the Hit and Run campaign, in a nutshell, is really specifically to call attention to actual cases and actual punishments and highlight the fact that these people are kind of getting away with it in a way.
And what did happen to the driver of the vehicle who hit Patrick?
So her case has been ongoing. She actually, I'm pretty sure the final verdict, I'm pretty sure it's done. It changes like every month, there's always something new that comes up. But she actually was a nurse, and her name is Sarah Morris, and she is probably, Patrick's case hopefully is going to be a landmark case in getting distracted drivers punished as they deserve to be punished. But I think she's one of the most appropriately punished so far that I've heard about. She had initially gotten her license. Well, first it was a small punishment, and then she got her license revoked after she got in another driving accident. And I recently learned that she no longer is a nurse anymore, and she has to do, I believe, 18 talks on distracted driving, and had to pay a lot of money in fines, of course. But this is so much more than just money. We want people to really learn that this is unacceptable.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the songs on the album. So the first one, the one that you have the hashtag named after, the Hit and Run. So that's the one that has the music video. What is this song about?
So this song, the first line and the chorus is, "Oh, you showed me love like it was a hit and run," and it's about how life can be taken so quickly, but also how a relationship can end in the blink of an eye, whether you break up or anything, so it's I try to not make it specifically about Patrick and kind of make it relatable to just relationships in general, because that's all this is. That's all I'm trying to do with music, is relate it to this could be someone you love.
Right.
And it also kind of explores the idea that, is it better to have something amazing and then have it taken away, or to never have had it in the first place?
Right, exactly. And the second song on there is Autopilot. Give us a little feel for what that's about.
Yeah, so Autopilot is definitely, it's the stage of grief where you're just, you don't really feel like you have any relationship with what's going on outside of yourself, and just kind of going through the motions. And I still feel like I'm in that stage a lot of the time, especially when I'm doing stuff like this, especially when I'm talking about songs that are about something so personal. I feel like almost by talking about them, I'm just on autopilot. I'm trying to get you the information. I'm trying to get people engaged, and then I'll get off this podcast and just be like, did that really happen? So yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that when they've experienced loss. It's just you have to just keep going. So
yeah, sometimes I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'll take being on autopilot over not being able to get out of bed any day. So it's kind of, in a way, a positive thing. It can be.
Yeah, I can remember right after, just a few months after my dad passed away, I can remember sometimes thinking about I reach for the phone, I'm going to make a call, and then you forget. Oh yeah, you have to keep reminding yourself, he's not there. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough situation. What about the third song then, Dent? What is that about?
So Dent is Dent is kind of about not wanting to change the world, but just wanting to make a small but worthy impact, just a little dent in it. And that's definitely what Patrick did with his life. He actually made a bigger dent, a bigger impact than most in his short time here. He was 25 when he was killed, and he was a physics teacher at a high school in the Bronx. And I know for a fact that he was the reason some of his students went to college or went on to become animators or musicians at Berkeley. He was a bassist, and he got really close with one of his fellow students who was also a bassist, and I know he's at Berkeley now doing amazing things. And so the song also touches on, like, if there is such thing as dying before your time, or what does that even really mean? Do we have a superconscious that decides when our time might be, like, unbeknownst to us? I'm not saying I believe that, but it just kind of explores all of these possible different viewpoints. And maybe bad things just happen to good people, but regardless, your time is your time, and you can never be sure when that will be. So it's important to leave something positive behind, even if it's just a little dent.
So the song Hit and Run, you've created a music video, but it's also serving the purpose, you say, to be a public service announcement. Could you talk a little bit about this music video that you're releasing next month?
Yes. So the video, as I said before, comes out April 21st for Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And the release party is going to be in New York at a venue called Pianos, if we have any NYC residents tuning in. And I'm also working with a few other organizations. We Save Lives, to help get the message out. And that's when I'm really going to be talking about the Hit and Run campaign and starting this movement of making these different punishments that happen in cases all around the world come to light, just so people can get an idea of, what the punishment is for this. Because I think a lot of them will be surprised that sometimes it's very little.
Right. So in general, the overall fight to raise awareness and combat distracted driving, do you think we're in general making any progress? Do you see any positivity coming out from all these grassroots efforts that we're hearing about?
I definitely think that there's progress. I think it's slow, especially in the legislative arena. Florida, I feel like I can't be on this without talking about this since I'm from Florida, you're in Florida. They just killed a bill, Senate Bill 90 and House Bill 33, that should have made texting and driving a primary offense. And that was really disheartening to me and to Patrick's mom. She was going to Tallahassee all the time to really try to tell her story and get the whole emotional aspect of it, because that's what people connect with, and that's what I want to do with my video and with my campaign. And I want people to have an emotional reaction. Right now there's a very apathetic reaction because texting and driving, like, the negligence is so socially accepted.
Right.
And so, do I think we're making progress? Yes. Do I think we have a long way to go? Yes. But Spotify did just recently add the VOICEMEMO, the voice activation feature. So it's still up to people to use it. But if you're changing music in your car, it's no longer an excuse. If you're streaming on Spotify, you can say, like, play this song. So technology is improving. It's just slow. We have to be patient, and we have to keep fighting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you see the laws becoming more strict around the country, but it seems like the hardest one is that social behavior change.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's still very socially acceptable, and so I think that's the biggest challenge right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been in cars with people who know everything I'm doing and know everything about Patrick, and some knew Patrick personally, and they'll still take out their phone, maybe it's just to look at a GPS thing, or it doesn't matter what it's for. Everybody has an excuse, and for whatever reason, their excuse is still acceptable to them. So until we can just literally just make it always put the phone down, always leave it in the glove compartment, leave it away, put it on silent, whatever it is, use one of these away messages now that tells people you're driving so you can't get back to them. How hard is it to set up where you're going before you drive? It's just these little things that we can all do that just aren't in our consciousness yet, and they're not priorities, but we need to make them.
Yep, definitely. So as we're getting close to wrapping up here, is there anything else you'd like to add about this topic, or anything that you're doing here in the future?
I would like to add that I have made these glasses, and they are usually passed out at my shows. They're to support the cause. I've had people who don't know me, don't know Patrick, don't know anything, just stop me on the street and buy them off my face. So if you are interested in helping raise awareness, I'm sure my contact information is shared at the end of this podcast. So get in touch, and it's not just a fashion statement. It is a social, political, legislative statement. So we can all do our part.
Okay, we definitely will. So that we'll have more information at the end of this podcast, and to learn more about VOICEMEMO and the Hit and Run project, just go to jannapelle.com or follow Janna Pelle on social media at Janna Pelle and hashtag Hit and Run Project. Janna, I really appreciate you joining us today, and I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm very encouraged by some of the work that you're doing, and there's no question it's going to make an impact.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janna. Well, once again, that was Janna Pelle with the Hit and Run Project talking about her new album, VOICEMEMO. She's on a mission to fight distracted driving, and her music video will be released on April 21st. And April is the National Security Council's Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So follow the Driver's Alert YouTube channel to stay current on the latest podcast episodes featuring the most influential people in driver and road safety. Until next time.